Let's go.
Hi, Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I'm going to feature this suite here, which was part of the online exclusives that were offered in September. It's called the Gathering Together Suite Collection. It includes some DSP, several sheets right here. It has some wonderful Cajun Craze dots, as well as a stamp set, an embossing folder, a very large embossing folder, and these dies. Now, this is actually a very versatile suite, and you know, I really like to kind of take a suite and kind of play with it and see how much can I get out of it. And I actually was very pleased with this suite. So I'm going to show you several options for how you can create some really lovely cards using this suite. And I am going to, this is the card that we're going to create. I'm going to show you how you can take advantage of the dies, both in terms of the framelits, because these dies have two parts to them. They have a framelit, but they also have an inset that are going to create these holes. And what you can do with the holes is, using the linen thread that came with this collection, you can create kind of the veins of these autumn leaves. It has some nice stamps as part of the stamp set, and I kind of use them here to kind of embellish the inside of my card, and some really nice sentiments as well. So you're going to need a card blank, and this is going to be your base card, and this is simply, you know, measuring 5.5 by 4.25. You're going to have a layering piece in Early Espresso at 5.25 by 4. I'm using a piece of the DSP that measures 5 and 3 3/4. The DSP comes in this Early Espresso, Cajun Craze, and Crushed Curry, but it kind of has a soft basic beige or champagne background. Then it comes in another version where it has leaves that are basic beige, Early Espresso, and Cajun Craze with kind of a more white background. You can kind of see the difference between these two sheets. And finally, it comes out in a version that is completely colored with the various colors, including Old Olive, the Crushed Curry, Cajun Craze, and Early Espresso. So you have a much more colorful version. So you have 3 different versions of the same pattern. So the version that we're using for this card is going to be this one here with kind of the white background. You're going to need to cut a leaf using just the framelit portion of the dies, and that would be this portion here. And I use a piece of tape to kind of hold my die together as I'm cutting out this piece here, leaf with the perforated holes. And this is cut out of Old Olive, and that's going to layer nicely there. I took some basic black, and I'm going to use some gold embossing powder, and I've already done that, and that is going to be for the front of my card using the Gather stamp here. In your kit, if you buy the collection, you will find that you'll have 2 colors. You will have Old Olive and Early Espresso. For this piece, we're going to use the Early Espresso, and I put it in these bags. When I'm pulling out my thread, it's just a lot easier to kind of control my thread when I kind of have them in these bags instead of rolling around on my desktop. You're also going to use the embossing folder, and we're going to take this layering piece here, and we're going to emboss that with this Gathering Leaves Embossing Folder. And then you're going to need some of this thread, and you will need about 34 inches is about the length that you're going to need. And I have that cut right here, 34 inches. And you'll need a needle, and I'm using just one of my needles that I used for, I don't know, darning socks or some needlepoint that has a rather thick eye so that you can fit your linen thread through that. And I'm just going to thread that like this. And that is going to be a piece. I'm also going to use one of the kind of a piercing tool and a piercing mat because I'm going to add a couple more holes to our perforated piece to kind of finish the design a little bit. These are the pieces and parts that you're going to need. I will have the dimensions, in my blog so that you can follow along as I put this together. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss this. Now, if you have the Stampin' Emboss machine, all you need is the base plate, the embossing folder, and then this plate numbered 4. So you need plates 1 and 4 are leaves. So we're just simply going to emboss this and put this aside. We're going to kind of focus on how we're going to lace this. At first I thought it was a rather kind of a cumbersome project, but I actually kind of got to like it. You're going to start by just bring your needle in the back top here, and I'm going to use a tear tape here to kind of hold my thread down, and I'm just going to use one side of the tear tape. I'm careful not to cover any of the holes, and all I want to do is kind of just secure that piece down. Okay, now that I've got that secured down, I'm just going to go and just do like I'm just sewing. I don't know if sewing's the right word or lacing is the right word, but I'm just going to kind of lace these. And you always want these outside holes are always going to go kind of downward, facing down. And just simply Okay, now this is where we're going to grab a piercing mat and a piercing tool, and we're going to add a hole right there. And okay, now that I've got that piece, I can take my needle off, and I am going to grab kind of a tape runner, and I'm going to add some tape, sticky tape, to both sides of that stem. And then I'm going to wrap this around that thread. Okay, it's got there's like a little piece there, but all we're going to do now is I'm just going to take this and grab some glue. I'm just going to add that up like that. And this dries clear, so I'm just gonna, just add some glue there and just make sure kind of have that secure, okay? And we're going to go ahead and put that aside, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of put the rest of my card together while that dries. Going to clip that edge off right there, and we're going to grab a piece of, I have a Stampin' Spot or Espresso. I'm going to grab a sponge dauber, and I'm going to take my leaf okay, Now, you can use these Cajun Craze spots, some other embellishments, like I kind of like these copper ones here that I'm going to use. And there's our card. Now for the inside, Cajun Craze, crushed curry, and an old olive. There you go. Okay, so here's our card, but let's look at some other things that you can do. I took crushed curry and I did the same thing. I laced my card. I picked a background that had a little bit more color in it, and I used the old olive cardstock, and after I laced it, I crunched the paper up so that it would kind of give the leaf kind of a much more of a kind of a crinkled autumn kind of look. And I did the same thing. Again, took the same leaf, laced it, and then kind of crinkled it up so it kind of had a little bit more kind of autumn texture to it. And this is using the old olive. Now, what I did is I used the early espresso to kind of match my background layer. Here I used the green, the old olive, to kind of pull that color. And I did the same thing here. That's how I kind of decided how I wanted to coordinate my colors between my threads and my card. And then using that really pretty DSP to kind of pull it all together. And I thought the black sentiment here really kind of also made that pop. Now, I then went into my craft space and I found some gold twisted thread that I had that was lying there. So what I did is, using the Cajun Craze, I cut out the leaf, only I threaded it using the gold twisted thread. And again, to kind of make that thread pop, I used some gold foil for my background layer for my leaf. And I did the same with this one. Again, using that technique where I just kind of threaded it and then I crumpled up my cardstock to kind of give it that crinkly look. And again, I backed it using a layer of the gold foil. And then finally, just to show you what else you can do with it, I just took the shape and I used the texture stamp that is part of the stamp set. And it's this one right here. And I just kind of texturize it, again, crumpled it up, and then I just used the Cajun Craze and I used the embossing folder to give it that texture, and I used the Cajun Craze embellishments there, and then just a little piece of cardstock there just to kind of make that pop. So there you have it. I've shown you several ways that you can coordinate both the threads to create these cards. If you haven't already, please hit like. All products are available on my online store. There will be a link. Go to my blog for the project details. If you're looking for a demo, please consider joining my team. Consider joining as a hobbyist to enjoy a 20% discount on all Stampin' Up products. If you are a demo and like my content, please support my channel. All it takes is just hitting the like button. And I'd also appreciate, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this project. This is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. Happy stamping.